Greetings, fellow Toastmasters. Welcome to Mastering Meeting Roles, the Toastmaster edition. Just a disclaimer, this presentation was done for Celebration Kenner Toastmasters in Kenner, Louisiana. Our Toastmaster role may be handled differently than your Toastmaster role. Please just take what information is helpful to you from the presentation and push aside the rest. The Toastmaster is the person that typically selects a theme if your clubs use themes. They coordinate with the table topic master so that they can share that theme. Review the agenda, make sure everything's there and they understand what's happening during the meeting. Prepare accordingly. Print the introductions. Manage the time during the meeting. Now, selecting a theme. As I mentioned, some clubs don't use themes. If your clubs use a theme, you want to select a theme that is easily broken into small pieces so that you can spread those out across the meeting. And if you're really smart, you're going to look at the agenda, figure out when you're at the lectern or when you have the floor, and plan what bits of information you will give every time it's your turn to speak. You want to coordinate with the table topic master, make sure they know what the theme is, and maybe share with them some of what you're going to share as part of your theme, because you don't want them to maybe step on your toes with the questions they ask by revealing information that you had planned to reveal at a later time in the meeting after table topics. So just coordinate with them and make sure you each know what the other's doing. Review the agenda, make sure that all the roles are filled, or make sure that if there's any question about something, you're prepared because you are the host of the meeting. You are the MC. Prepare accordingly. That's all part of figuring out that theme and planning what you'll say when. Print the introductions. You're going to go to the agenda on Toast Host. And for every speaker, you're going to print their speaker introduction. And you do that by clicking that little print icon next to the words speech introduction. When you print it, it looks something like this. And it just opens in another window in your browser. Then you'll have to hit the print button on your browser to print it to a printer. You could theoretically just leave it open in your browser if you're in an online meeting and you don't need it in your hand. But nevertheless, this is what you're going to read. You notice that the introduction page includes the name of the speaker, the manual, speech and time, and the speech title. It's very important that you only read the introduction. Because if the speaker has done their job, they have included all of the prior information in the introduction. And so all you need is the introduction, not all the other stuff. So read only the introduction. And if they left something out, that's on them. They should not have done that, because you might not want, the speaker might not want you to share the project information until they've explained something else. So the way they write their introduction is the way you want to give the information. You want to read it exactly as written. Don't laugh and make jokes in between. You want to read this introduction as it's written. Finally, it's your job as the Toastmaster to manage the time of the meeting. Keep your eye on the agenda. If it is 11:22 and on the agenda at 11:22, table topics is supposed to be happening and you haven't even done something that was prior to that on the agenda, you're running behind and you need to figure out how to help the club catch up. It's also your job to coordinate with the table topics master if it looks like their table topics session is running a little long and it might put you over time. You might give them a signal to wrap it up, whatever that signal is. You can let them know it's time to move on. Let's take a look at the agenda. This is a typical agenda for a Celebration Kenner Toastmasters meeting. Notice that it shows one speaker. We allow up to 3 people to sign up to speak. In fact, our agenda template has 3 speakers and 3 evaluators listed on it. If only 1 or perhaps 2 people sign up to speak, the Vice President of Education will remove the additional roles, the 2 additional or 1 additional evaluator and speaker. They will remove those roles and take the time that had been allotted to those roles and pad other areas of the agenda. Mostly table topics, but also they might add time to the Toastmasters role. They might add time to the meeting closing so that roles can be easily taken within the time frame. Wherever time is needed, that's where it's placed. The meeting opens with the presiding officer's welcome, and that includes the invocation pledge and mission statement. We also welcome any members back that have been away for a while. We welcome visitors and give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. And then we make any announcement of any awards or upcoming events. And then the presiding officer introduces the Toastmaster of the day. That's you. When you take over as Toastmaster, the first thing you're going to do is introduce yourself, especially if they're a guest, and introduce your theme. And then you might want to share 1 or 2 brief points about your theme. Just remember to keep your remarks brief every time you're at the lectern. If there are guests, you'll want to briefly describe that there are 3 parts to the meeting, consisting of part 1, prepared speeches, where our speakers are working on projects within pathways and presenting speeches that apply to those projects. The second part of the meeting is the table topics. That is where we ask impromptu questions based on the theme, and guests will be allowed to participate if they so desire, but they should not feel obligated to do so if they're not comfortable. And then finally, the third part of the meeting is the evaluation portion. This is a really good opportunity for you to then segue into introducing the general evaluator. You can say something along the lines of, the third part of our meeting is where the evaluators of our meeting present their reports. And here to explain how that whole process works is our general evaluator. And so then you welcome the general evaluator to take over the meeting. The general evaluator does his or her thing, and then they turn the meeting back to you as Toastmaster. Notice that the agenda does not show the Toastmaster every time you speak. For the purpose of keeping the agenda short, it only lists the Toastmaster at the beginning, but it is understood that you are the MC of the meeting, and so you will take the lectern back from the general evaluator at this point. Then, before you introduce the speaker, you can share a couple of more brief points about your theme. And then to introduce the speaker, you will read the introduction that you should have previously printed. You read it exactly as it is written by the speaker and introduce the speaker in the process. After the speaker is finished, they will turn the meeting back over to you. Sometimes the speakers are nervous and they forget to do that. Just be prepared to take the meeting back over as soon as the speaker wraps up his or her speech. Sometimes we do have more than one speaker, and so you would be reading multiple introductions and introducing multiple speakers, each time having the opportunity to share brief notes about your theme prior to introducing the next speaker. When there is more than one speaker, you should really be careful about talking too much because the time will be tight. After the speakers are finished, the next portion of the meeting is table topics. Prior to introducing the table topics, Master, you can also share a couple of brief remarks about your theme again. So each time you're at the lectern, you're going to have the opportunity to share some brief remarks about your theme. When table topics is done, once again, the table topic master will turn the meeting back to you, and then you make whatever remarks you want about the theme. You can wrap up your theme at this point. However, if you would like the general evaluator to turn the meeting back to you after all of the reports are given, you can ask them to please return the meeting to your control. If not, you can instruct the general evaluator when you introduce them to turn the meeting to the presiding officer so that they can close the meeting. The general evaluator then takes over the meeting, but if you look at the description in the general evaluator role, it explains exactly how that works. The general evaluator introduces the speech evaluators and then calls for timer and WAG reports, evaluates the meeting as a whole, lastly, and then they will turn it back over to you or presiding officer, and the meeting would wrap up. It's that simple. The important thing to remember is that you should keep your remarks brief and also keep the meeting moving, watching that agenda and keeping the meeting moving. And always refer to those notes because they are very clear about who the meeting gets turned back to. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me. I'm happy to help. Watch for more videos for more information.